The hotel room smelled of stale champagne, spent pheromones, and the sour, metallic tang of betrayal. It was a scent I had become pathetic enough to recognize, a sensory map of Albert's indiscretions. I moved through the suite like a ghost, picking up the debris of his latest conquest. There were clothes scattered across the plush carpet, designer denim torn in haste, a white tee stained with wine. I counted 7 used wrappers in the trash can. 7. My stomach churned, a violent rebellion against the alpha I had spent 5 years loving, but I swallowed the bile and kept cleaning. Here, I said, my voice rasping in the silence as I held out a stack of cash. The boy sitting on the edge of the bed looked young, barely out of college, with the soft, unblemished skin of a beta who hadn't yet been ruined by the world. He was buttoning his shirt, his fingers trembling slightly as he had the money. He said he'd Venmo me $2,000, the boy stammered, glancing nervously at the figure passed out on the king-sized bed. Now he's asleep, and, take it, I interrupted, forcing the bills into his hand. 3,000. For the night, and for your silence. You were never here. You never met Albert Sterling. The boy took the money, flashing a quick, relieved smile that revealed a crooked incisor, before grabbing his bag. Thanks. You're his brother, right? The assistant. Get out, I whispered. When the door clicked shut, the silence rushed back in, heavy and suffocating. I turned to look at Albert. My stepbrother. My alpha. My lover. He was sprawled across the sheets, one arm hanging off the side, his chest rising and falling in a rhythm that used to lull me to sleep. Now, it just looked like arrogance, even in slumber. The scent of him, burnt cedar and rain, was usually my anchor. Today, it smelled like a cage. Wake up, I said, nudging his leg with my foot. Albert groaned, his brow furrowing. He shifted, burying his face in the pillow before cracking one eye open. When he saw me, the confusion cleared, replaced by a lazy, satisfied smirk. Keith, he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep and whiskey. What are you doing here? I stared at him, feeling the weight of the last decade crushing my lungs. I cleaned up your mess. Again, he pushed himself up, rubbing his temples, the sheet falling to his waist. He didn't even have the decency to cover himself. Oh, the kid? Yeah, he was annoying. Kept asking about my follower count. He yawned, stretching his arms. Did you pay him? I'll transfer it back to you. Albert, I said, the name tasting like ash. We're breaking up. He froze mid-stretch. For a second, I saw a flicker of genuine shock in his eyes, but it vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by a scoff. He laughed, a short, sharp sound. Come on, Keith. Don't start this again. Is this about last night? Did I not leave you enough attention? Is that it? He patted the empty space on the mattress beside him. Come here. Since you're already here, why don't we? I'm serious. I cut him off, my voice steady, though my hands were shaking in my pockets. I'm done. You're done? He laughed again, louder this time, shaking his head as if I'd told a particularly funny joke. Keith, babe, look at us. We're inevitable. You're my omega. You're my brother. We're bonded by everything. You think you can just walk away? To where? Who's going to take care of you? I'm not your omega, I said quietly. And I'm certainly not your brother anymore. Don't be dramatic, he snapped, his scent flaring with a sudden spike of irritation. It was just a hookup. It doesn't mean anything. We don't do the whole marriage and kids thing, remember? We have an arrangement. You have an arrangement, I corrected him. I have a sentence. I turned and walked out before he could see the tears pricking my eyes. I didn't pack much. The apartment we shared, a sprawling penthouse paid for by his influencer fame, was filled with things, but hardly any of them were mine. I was a minimalist by necessity, a habit formed in the lean years when we were just 2 orphans trying to survive. I packed 2 suitcases. That was it. 5 years of a relationship, 15 years of knowing him, distilled down to 2 bags of clothes and a laptop. As I zipped the second bag, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Twitch. Albert_Prime is live. I shouldn't have clicked it. I knew better. But my thumb hovered and tapped the screen before I could stop myself. The video feed loaded. He was in a VIP booth at a club, surrounded by a harem of young, beautiful boys. The lighting was neon blue and pink, pulsing with the bass of the music. Albert sat in the center, looking like a king, a glass of expensive scotch in his hand. He looked unbothered. He looked relieved. "Welcome back to the stream, guys," Albert shouted over the music, flashing that $1,000,000 smile that made Omega's weak in the knees. He panned the camera around the booth. "Look at this spread. Tonight is a celebration. Single life, baby." The chat was moving so fast, it was a blur of text. OMG, Albert is single? What happened to the assistant? Finally, I have a chance. Where is Keith? Is he okay? Albert glanced at the chat on his phone and rolled his eyes. "Stop asking about the assistant," he said, his tone dismissive. "Keith is taking a break. He went home to do laundry or something. You know how he is. He loves playing house. Is he coming back?" One of the boys next to him asked, leaning into the frame and draping an arm over Albert's shoulder. Albert smirked at the camera. "He's my brother, not my jailer." Besides, he leaned in close to the lens, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Some people, when they play the big brother role too long, they start thinking they're your dad. Gotta let him cool off. Give it 2 days. He'll be back begging to organize my schedule." I closed the app, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. 2 days, he thought. He thought I was just throwing a tantrum. He thought I was incapable of existing without his orbit. I booked a train ticket. Not a plane, I needed the time. I needed the slow, rhythmic clatter of wheels on tracks to separate myself from the life I was leaving. But I had 3 days before the train left. It was a holiday weekend, and everything was booked solid. To kill time the next afternoon, I wandered into the luxury mall downtown. It was a place Albert and I used to walk through when we were teenagers, pressing our faces against the glass, dreaming of the day we wouldn't have to share a single cup of instant noodles for dinner. I stopped in front of a watch store. In the display case, sitting on a velvet cushion, was a Patek Philippe. It was elegant, understated, the kind of watch I had admired for years. I remembered pointing it out to Albert once, back when his only income was tips from waiting tables. I remember the rain that night. He had grabbed my hand, his grip tight, almost painful. "Keith," he had promised, his eyes burning with a hunger that scared me. "One day, I'm going to buy that for you. I swear. I'm going to make so much money, you'll never have to look at a price tag again." Now, he had the money. He had millions. But he had forgotten the promise. "Can I help you, sir?" a sales associate asked, stepping out. "No, just looking," I murmured. As I turned to leave, the glass doors of the shop opened, and a familiar laugh drifted in. I froze. Albert walked in, wearing sunglasses indoors, his arm around a boy in a white t-shirt that matched his own. Couples outfits. I stepped back, hiding behind a display of silk scarves. I should have left, but my feet were lead. "Pick whatever you want," Albert said, his voice booming with the confidence of a man who owned the room. "Sky's the limit." The boy giggled, scanning the counters. Then, Albert stopped. He was looking at the Patek Philippe. The same one. He stared at it for a long moment, his expression softening. For a heartbeat, I thought he remembered. I thought he was seeing me. "That one," Albert said, pointing. "Wrap it up." The boy gasped, clutching Albert's arm. "For me? Al, you shouldn't have. That's too much." Albert blinked, snapping out of his trance. He looked at the boy, then at the watch, and a shadow passed over his face. "Yeah," he said, his voice flat. "For you. Whatever." As they waited for the receipt, Albert turned. His eyes, hidden behind the dark lenses, swept the room and locked onto me. He stiffened. I didn't move. I didn't run. I just stood there, meeting his gaze. He pulled his sunglasses down the bridge of his nose, his eyes narrowing. He looked at me, then at the watch being boxed up, then back at me. A slow, cruel smirk spread across his lips. He leaned toward the boy, but kept his eyes on me. "Actually," Albert said, loud enough for me to hear, "it's not a big deal. It's just a watch. Not like it means anything special." He grabbed the bag and walked toward the exit, passing within inches of me. He paused, leaning in close to my ear. "Stalking me now, Keith? That's desperate, even for you. Go home. Cook something. Maybe I'll stop by later." He breezed past, the boy trailing him like a puppy. I watched them go, feeling a strange sense of calm settle over me. It wasn't the calm of peace, it was the calm of a dead thing. That promise was dead. The boy who made it was dead. That night, the sky opened up. It rained with a ferocity that turned the gutters into rivers. I couldn't sleep in the hotel, so I went to the convenience store on the corner for a bottle of cheap wine. On the way back, lightning flashed, illuminating a narrow alleyway. I saw a shape huddled under the meager shelter of a dripping awning. A person. I hesitated, then turned back. "Hey," I called out over the roar of the rain. "You okay?" The figure jerked, lifting a head of soaked, matted hair. It was a boy. He couldn't have been more than 20. He was shivering so violently his teeth were audibly chattering. He looked up at me with wide, terrified eyes, and my heart stopped. He looked exactly like Albert did the night of the car accident. The same fragility. The same desperate need to survive. I don't have any money," the boy stammered, flinching as I stepped closer. "I don't want your money," I said, my voice softening. "Come on. I have a hotel room down the block. You can't stay out here." He hesitated, looking at my extended hand like it was a trap. But the cold won out. He took my hand. His skin was ice. Back in the room, I gave him a towel and a change of dry clothes, one of my oversized sweaters. He came out of the bathroom looking like a drowned rat, the sleeves hanging past his hands. "I'm Lucas," he whispered, sitting on the edge of the second bed. "Keith," I replied. I called room service and ordered 2 burgers and fries. When the food arrived, Lucas ate with a frantic intensity, as if he hadn't seen a meal in days. "Slow down," I said, pouring him a glass of water. "You'll make yourself sick." He swallowed a massive bite. "Thank you. I'll pay you back. I swear. I just escaped a bad situation. A pyramid scheme thing. They took my ID, my phone. I just ran." "Don't worry about it," I said. "Eat." We sat in silence for a while. Lucas finished eating and then pulled out a cracked smartphone he must have hidden in his shoe. He tapped on the screen, and the familiar sound of Albert's voice filled the room. "Yeah, chat, I know. The assistant is probably crying into a pillow right now." I stiffened. Lucas looked up, panic in his eyes. "Oh, sorry. I watch him sometimes. Albert Prime. He's funny." "It's fine," I said tightly. On the screen, Albert was back in our apartment. He was sitting on the couch, looking smug. "Okay, guys, here's the bed," Albert said, addressing the camera. "I haven't been home in 3 days. Keith has been ignoring my calls. But I guarantee that right now, there is a pot of chicken soup simmering on the stove. He always makes it when we fight. He thinks it fixes everything." The chat rolled by. "Aw, that's actually sweet. Simp behavior. Show us the soup. If there's no soup, you owe us a giveaway." "Watch and learn," Albert said, standing up. "This is how much he loves me. He can't help himself." I watched, feeling a cold detachment. He was right. Usually, there would be soup. Usually, I would be there, waiting to forgive him. Albert walked to the kitchen. "Smell that?" he asked the new assistant holding the camera. "Is that soup?" The assistant sniffed. I think so. It smells good." Albert grinned triumphantly. "Told you." He reached for the handle of the pot on the stove. "Prepare to be jealous, boys. This is what true devotion looks like." He lifted the lid. The camera zoomed in. The pot was empty. Dry? Cold? Albert froze. The smile slid off his face like melting wax. He stared into the empty stainless steel bottom of the pot, blinking rapidly. The cameraman shifted awkwardly. "Maybe it's in the fridge?" Albert slammed the lid back down. The clang echoed loudly through the speakers. He spun around, his eyes darting around the pristine, empty kitchen. He must have gone to the store. LMAO. Rejected. "Bro, the pot is cold." He gone. Albert ignored the chat. He marched to the bedroom. "Keith," he yelled. "Keith, quit hiding. It's not funny." He threw open the bedroom door. The camera followed. The room was immaculate. And empty. The closet doors were open, revealing bare hangers where my clothes used to be. My side of the vanity was wiped clean of lotions and colognes. Albert stood in the center of the room, spinning in a slow circle. "Where is his stuff?" he muttered, his voice losing its bravado. "Where is his everything?" Suddenly, a comment in the chat caught Lucas's eye. He gasped. "Keith, look." He pointed to a comment. "Wait, I saw the assistant. I saw him at the 7-Eleven on 5th Street like an hour ago. He was buying wine. I have a pic." Albert saw it too. He leaned into the screen, his eyes wild. 5th Street? That's near the hotel district." He let out a harsh, relieved laugh. "See? I told you." He's just pouting. He's staying at a hotel to punish me. He's just down the street. He looked directly into the camera lens, his eyes boring into mine across the digital divide. Nice try, Keith. You want me to come get you? Fine. I'll play your game. But you better be ready to apologize when I get there. I reached over and took the phone from Lucas's hand. Turn it off, I said. Lucas looked at me, eyes wide. That's you? You're the assistant. Not anymore, I said. The next morning, I went to a tattoo parlor. Lucas followed me, quiet and observant like a shadow. What are you getting? He asked as we sat in the waiting room. I'm not getting anything, I said, rolling up my sleeve. On the inside of my forearm, stark black ink spelled out C.Y. Signy, Albert's birth name. It was intertwined with a small, stylized image of a boy's face. We had gotten matching ones when we were 18. He had my name over his heart. I had his name on my pulse. I'm getting it removed, I told Lucas. The laser removal was agonizing. It felt like hot grease snapping against my skin over and over again. The smell of burning hair and flesh filled the small room. But I didn't flinch. I watched the laser trace the lines of Albert's name, breaking the ink apart, shattering the bond into microscopic particles for my body to scavenge and flush away. When we walked out, my arm was bandaged and throbbing, but I felt lighter. Did it hurt? Lucas asked, eyeing the gauze. Less than keeping it, I said. My phone started ringing. It was Albert. I declined it. It rang again immediately. I declined again. Then the text started. Where are you? I went to the hotel. They said you checked out. Stop playing games, Keith. Pick up the phone. I'm sorry, okay? Just tell me where you are. If you don't come back by midnight, don't bother coming back at all. I read the last one and typed a single reply. Okay. Then I blocked his number. I blocked his socials. I threw the SIM card into a trash can on the platform of the train station. Where are we going? Lucas asked, holding his meager belongings in a plastic bag. I had bought him a ticket. I couldn't leave him behind. He reminded me too much of the boy I used to be. Home, I said. The real one. The train ride took 12 hours, followed by a bumpy bus ride into the mountains. We arrived at the old family estate just as the sun was setting. It was a crumbling farmhouse my mother had left me, the only thing Albert's father hadn't managed to sell off. The yard was overgrown with waist-high weeds, and the windows were dark eyes staring out at the valley. It's rustic, Lucas said, trying to be polite. It's a dump. I corrected him, unlocking the front door. But it's ours. The next week was a blur of physical labor. We scrubbed floors, patched the roof, and hacked away at the jungle in the yard. It was exhausting, back-breaking work, and it was exactly what I needed. Every pulled weed felt like extracting a memory of Albert. Lucas was surprisingly helpful. He was quiet, diligent, and anticipated my needs before I voiced them. If I was thirsty, a glass of water appeared. If I was sweating, he opened a window. One evening, while we were clearing the back garden, Lucas let out a high-pitched shriek and leaped onto my back, wrapping his legs around my waist and burying his face in my neck. Snake! Snake! He squealed, his body trembling against mine. I stumbled, laughing. Lucas, let go? Where? There. In the grass. I looked down. A tiny garter snake, maybe 6 inches long, was slithering harmlessly away. It's a garter snake, Lucas. It eats bugs. It's more scared of you than you are of it. I don't care, he muffled into my shoulder. Kill it. I'm not killing it. Get down, you big baby. He slid down slowly, his face bright red. I really hate snakes. I gathered, I teased. That night, a storm rolled in. The old house groaned under the wind, and the temperature dropped. The heating system was still broken, so the house was freezing. I was reading in bed, wrapped in 3 blankets, when my door creaked open. Lucas stood there, clutching a pillow, his teeth chattering. Keith, he whispered. It's really cold in my room. The window won't close all the way. I sighed, lifting the corner of the duvet. Get in. He scrambled into the bed, curling up into a tight ball beside me. He radiated cold. Thank you, he murmured. You're warm. You're an ice cube. I grumbled, but I didn't push him away. A few minutes later, he pulled out his phone. Can I watch something? I can't sleep. Keep the volume down, I said, closing my eyes. I was drifting off when I heard a gasp. Oh no. What? I mumbled. I accidentally accepted our invite. What invite? Albert. He's doing a ghost story stream for Halloween. He was doing random fan call-ins. I pressed accept by mistake. My eyes snapped open. I sat up just as Lucas turned the phone screen toward me in a panic. There, on the screen, was Albert. He looked terrible. Pale, dark circles under his eyes, his hair unstyled. He was staring at the camera, his mouth slightly open. And in the corner of his screen, in the little box that showed the guest, was us. Me, in bed, with Lucas curled up against my chest, wearing my old t-shirt. The intimacy of the scene was undeniable. We looked like lovers. The chat froze for a split second, then exploded. Is that Keith? Who is that boy? They are in bed together. OMG, Albert, look at his face. Albert stared. He didn't speak. He didn't breathe. He just looked at me, then at Lucas, then back at me. The devastation in his eyes was absolute. It wasn't anger anymore. It was the look of a man watching his world burn down in real time. Keith, he whispered, his voice cracking. I reached out and ended the call. The silence in the room was deafening. Lucas looked like he wanted to cry. I'm so sorry, Keith. I didn't mean to. It's okay, I said, lying back down and staring at the ceiling. It had to happen eventually. 2 days later, the gate to the yard rattled. I was in the garden, planting tomatoes. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. The scent hit me first, distress, exhaustion, and that familiar burnt cedar, now soured with desperation. Keith. I stood up, wiping the dirt from my hands. Albert was standing at the gate. He looked like a wreck. He was wearing the same clothes he had on during the stream. He had driven 12 hours straight. Go away, Albert, I said calmly. I can't, he choked out, pushing the gate open. He stumbled toward me. I can't find you anywhere online. You blocked me. You. Who is he? That kid. His name is Lucas, I said. And he's none of your business. Did you sleep with him? Albert demanded, his voice rising hysterically. Is that why you left? For him. I left because of you, Albert. Lucas has nothing to do with it. He grabbed my arm. Come home. Please. I'll stop. I swear to God. Keith, I'll stop everything. No more streams. No more boys. Just us. I'll buy you the watch. I'll buy you the whole damn store. Just come home. I looked down at his hand gripping my arm. Let go. No. You're mine. You've always been mine. Lucas appeared from the house, holding a shovel. He didn't look scared anymore. He looked fierce. He said let go. Albert snarled at him. Shut up, you little. Then, Albert's eyes fell on my inner arm. He froze. His grip slackened. He stared at the angry red scar where the tattoo used to be. The CY was gone. Erased. You, Albert whispered, stepping back as if I had slapped him. You removed it. It's gone, Albert, I said softly. Just like us. He looked at the scar, then up at my face. He searched for any sign of hesitation, any flicker of the love that had sustained him for 15 years. He found nothing but pity. But, we're brothers, he pleaded, his voice tiny, like a child lost in the dark. We're bonded. We were never brothers, I said. And the bond is broken. He stood there for a long time, tears streaming down his face, silent and ugly. Then, slowly, he turned around. He walked back to the gate, his shoulders slumped, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. He rented the house next door. For a week, he just sat on the porch, watching us. He watched us garden. He watched us laugh. He watched Lucas try to chop wood and fail. One evening, I made chicken soup. The smell wafted over the fence. Albert appeared at the fence line. He looked gaunt. Keith, he called out, his voice hoarse. Can I have a bowl? I haven't eaten all day. I looked at him, holding the ladle. Lucas was sitting at the table, waiting for his serving. No, I said. Please. Just a taste. It smells like home. Go home, Albert, I said, pouring the soup into Lucas's bowl. Lucas took a sip, smiled at me, and said, It's perfect, Keith. Albert watched us, his knuckles white as he gripped the fence. He stood there until the sun went down, watching a life he could have had, a life he threw away for cheap thrills and internet fame. The next morning, he was waiting by the mailbox. Today is my birthday, he said when I walked out to get the paper. I stopped. I had forgotten. For 15 years, his birthday was the most important day of my year. I would plan for months. Happy birthday, I said flatly. Will you eat a cake with me? Just 5 minutes. Please. He held up a small box from the local bakery. His hands were shaking. I looked at him. I saw the boy who had pulled me from the car wreck. I saw the teenager who promised me the world. And I saw the man who had broken my heart 1,000 times. No, I said. Goodbye, Albert. Keith. Don't come back, I said. If you ever loved me, even a little bit, leave me alone. He stared at me, his lip trembling. Then he nodded. A jerky, broken nod. Okay. Okay, Keith. He walked back to his rental. I went inside. A few minutes later, through the open window, I heard a faint, wavering voice singing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. He was singing to himself. By noon, his car was gone. Epilogue. Lucas, my name is Lucas. When I was a kid, a foster dad told me I was bad luck. He said I was a black cat crossing everyone's path. I believed him for a long time. I was rotting in that alleyway when Keith found me. He looked like an angel, if angels wore expensive coats, and looked incredibly sad. He saved me. He didn't ask for anything. He just fed me and gave me a warm place to sleep. I knew who he was. Everyone knew Albert Prime's assistant. I used to watch the streams and think, why does that guy stay? He looks so lonely. Now I know. He stayed because he loved too much. Living here with Keith it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I wake up every day terrified it's a dream. I watch him in the garden, the sun catching the gray in his hair, and my chest aches. I know he doesn't see me that way. Not yet. To him, I'm just a stray he picked up. A little brother to replace the one he lost. And that's okay. I can be that. I'll be whatever he needs. Yesterday, I saw him smiling at his phone. His new channel, Keith's Country Kitchen, is blowing up. People love him. They love his calm voice, his hands working the dough, the peace of this place. I walked over and put a basket of strawberries on the table. Fresh picked, I said. He looked up and smiled at me. It reached his eyes this time. Thanks, Lucas. You're good at this. I'm learning from the best, I said. I saw him glance at the scar on his arm. It's fading, turning from angry red to a soft pink. One day, it'll just be a faint line, a memory of a wound that healed. I'm going to stay right here until it does. And maybe, just maybe, when he's finally healed, he'll look at me and see something more than a broken kid. But for now, I'll just eat his soup, chase the snakes away, even if I'm terrified, and make sure he never, ever feels lonely again.